If you'd told me a year ago that my own sister's wedding would be the day I stopped being invisible, I would have laughed. Quietly, of course, the kind of laugh people don't hear, just like they never really heard me. My name is Evelyn Carter, and this isn't a wedding story. It's the story of a lifetime spent standing in the shadows, and the 5 minutes that finally pulled me into the light. Wind whistles, soft piano begins. Graywood Estate always smelled like pine, old wood, and money. The kind of place people travel across the country to get married, just so the photographs look like a dream they can't afford. But that morning, I was the only thing in the picture that didn't belong. I arrived in a burgundy dress I bought after 3 months of saving. A dress I thought might make me feel seen. Silly me. Inside the glass ballroom, chandeliers dripped light like they were made of melted stars. Laughter rose and fell like rehearsed music. The guests shimmered in pearls and silver cufflinks. And me? I was handed a paper wristband, the kind they give to volunteers and staff. Carter family? I asked the coordinator gently. She scanned her list, paused, looked at me with the sympathy people reserve for stray animals. Oh, you're assigned to hallway seating. Hallway. Not near the back. Not near the entrance. The hallway. The place where the trash bins waited. Where the servers rushed through swinging doors. Where the walls smelled like lemon cleaner instead of roses. I should have said something. But I didn't. Because daughters who are used to being forgotten don't ask questions. I sat, folded my hands, smiled at people who didn't smile back. A ghost in a rented dress. Soft heartbeat sound fades in. You know, there are moments in life that split you open so quietly, you don't even bleed until later. For me, it was when my sister, the golden girl, the favorite, the crown jewel of the Carter family, walked toward me in her wedding gown. Madeline Carter. Tall, blonde, perfect. A face you'd find in magazines. A heart you wouldn't. She stopped at the doorway, just far enough that no one inside would see her standing near the trash cans with me. She tilted her head, bouquet glinting in the lights. Well, she whispered. Looks like they finally figured out where you belong. Her words didn't stab. They just sank, like stones falling to the bottom of a lake. I thought I'd grown numb to this. Years of being the easy one, the quiet one, the independent one. Labels parents use when they don't want to admit they simply forgot to love one child as much as the other. But hearing my sister, on her wedding day, tell me I didn't count? That was different. I looked at her. Really looked. The perfect makeup. The trembling hands. The paranoia in her eyes like she was afraid someone might see her speaking to me. Why are you doing this? I whispered. She leaned closer. I don't need you ruining my day. You never do anything right, Evelyn. You never have. The first dance music began inside. The crowd cheered, and for a moment, I felt like a ghost watching the living. Then I said the last thing she expected. You know, there's always been enough space for both of us. You're the one who keeps shrinking it. A crack flashed in her smile. A crack she'd spent years hiding beneath mascara, Botox, and lies. She walked away, and I sat there, quiet, still, forgotten. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I hadn't come empty-handed. Because 3 weeks earlier, I learned the truth. The ugly, shining truth behind her perfect engagement. The truth she never thought would reach me. Because people like me aren't supposed to matter enough to overhear anything important. Her fiancé, Logan Reeves, was a good man. The kind who holds doors, texts back quickly, and believes everyone is worth listening to. But Madeline, she'd been lying to him, manipulating him, planning a future where everything he owned, his house, his inheritance, his last name, would eventually be hers. How do I know? Because I saw the messages, screenshots from her coworker, recordings she didn't know were saved, words she said with a laugh. Logan is easy. Cry a little, and he signs whatever you want. I'll have the house by Christmas. He thinks I love him. Isn't that cute? Yeah, cute. Cute enough that I printed every piece of it, slipped it into a gift box wrapped in silver ribbon, placed it at the front of the wedding gift table, right next to the card that said, "To the bride. May your marriage be as honest as your intentions." I didn't stay to watch her open it. Didn't need to. Some storms you don't have to witness to know they'll hit hard. I just stood, brushed off my dress, and walked out into the Montana wind. And 5 minutes later, before I even reached the parking lot, the first scream echoed across Graywood Estate. A scream that didn't belong to joy, or surprise, or celebration. It belonged to a truth finally catching fire. And this is the story of everything that led to that scream. People say weddings bring out the best in families. Whoever said that never met mine. By the time I reached the gravel path that curved toward the parking lot, I could still hear the orchestra swelling inside the ballroom, violins and cellos weaving together like silk. Funny, right? Music so beautiful it could have made anyone believe a fairy tale was about to unfold. But fairy tales don't really happen in places like this. Not when the truth is sitting on a gift table wrapped in silver paper. The Montana sky was turning that soft blue-gray you only see before an evening storm. Clouds thickened, heavy, pregnant with rain. Pine trees whispered in the wind like they were spreading secrets. I stopped for a moment at the overlook. Graywood Estate sat on a hill where the land fell away into a valley of gold and green. If you didn't know any better, you'd think it was paradise. Maybe for some people it was, but not for girls like me. Not for daughters who grew up learning how to hold pain quietly. Slow inhale, slow exhale. I heard the ballroom doors open. Footsteps. Then a voice. Sharp, clipped, almost offended. Is she out here? It was Victoria Reeves, Logan's mother. A woman who carried herself like a queen without needing a crown. Her heels clicked like judgment against the stone. She wasn't looking for me, not yet. She was searching for a waiter, a coordinator, anyone who could bring her answers faster than her son's confusion. I stayed hidden behind one of the stone pillars, not because I was afraid, but because some truths aren't meant to be shared early. And then the first scream cut through the air. Not dramatic, not theatrical, just raw, human, followed by the crashing of something glass, a centerpiece maybe, or a crystal vase. Then another scream. Then silence so heavy, it felt like the earth stopped breathing. The orchestra halted mid-note, and suddenly, the entire estate seemed to hold its breath. I didn't move, not at first, because I knew that scream. I caused it, not out of revenge, not out of anger, but because sometimes the truth needs an audience, and Madeline had spent her whole life performing. I only gave her the stage. Another sound shattered the quiet. The crack of a man's voice echoing down the hallway. Madeline, what is this? Even from outside, I could hear the disbelief, the betrayal, the heartbreak. Logan Reeves had a steady presence. He was calm, patient, gentle in a way most men never learn to be. And for the first time, his voice broke. It sliced me open too, because I knew what it felt like to learn you weren't loved the way you thought you were. I moved closer. Not inside, not fully, just to the threshold where the warm lighting of the ballroom met the cold Montana wind. From there, I could see them. The guests parted like water around a sinking ship. Madeline stood near the gift table, her wedding gown wrinkled at the waist, veil lopsided, mascara streaking like ink down her cheeks. In her hand, she held the silver-wrapped box I'd left. The lid lay on the floor, the photo frame shattered beside it, and scattered across the table. Everything she thought would stay hidden. Printouts, screenshots, transcripts, voice memos, proof layered on proof. In her handwriting, her jokes, her plans, all exposed. Logan gripped the papers so tightly his knuckles turned white. He wasn't shouting anymore. His silence was louder. Tell me, he said finally. Tell me these aren't yours. Madeline's lips trembled. Her hands shook. I was venting, she stammered. Everyone vents. You can't take them seriously. Venting? His voice cracked. You said you were going to take my house. It was a joke. You said I'm easy to manipulate. I didn't mean it. You said you don't love me. Madeline froze. A pause stretched between them. Long, empty, heavy enough to crush a person. Then Logan spoke again, barely above a whisper. Who are you? Her eyes darted wildly across the room, searching for support. Someone to blame. Someone to throw under the bus. And I saw the exact moment she realized no one was stepping forward. Not even our parents. Richard and Helen Carter, the people who'd spent years placing her on a pedestal so high she forgot how to live without looking down on others, stood stiffly near the cake table. My father's jaw clenched. My mother's eyes glistened, not with sadness, but embarrassment. For her, not for me. Madeline choked on her breath. "This is a setup," she cried. "Someone's trying to sabotage me." "That someone," Victoria's voice thundered across the ballroom, "is you." You could feel the shift. The way power moved. The way truth settled. The way lies died. Victoria stepped forward, elegant and terrifying. "These messages came to me early this morning," she said coldly. "From your stylist, who accidentally forwarded them to the wrong group chat." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Madeline's legs buckled. Her voice cracked into pieces. "You can't do this. It's my wedding day." Logan exhaled like a man who had just swallowed fire. He reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a folded document. When he placed it on the table, I saw the bold letters from where I stood. Annulment agreement. Madeline stared at it as if it were a bomb. "You already signed," she whispered. You were planning to call this off?" "I had a feeling," Logan said, his voice hollow. "And now, I know." Madeline fell back into a chair, a princess losing her throne in slow motion. Gasps, whispers, phones recording. The collapse of a world built on lies. Everything I had predicted was happening. But instead of satisfaction, all I felt was a familiar ache. The ache of watching someone break. Even someone who'd spent her whole life breaking others. My mother moved first, not toward Madeline, but toward my father. We have to do something," she whispered. "We did enough," he said quietly. "Maybe too much." And for the first time in my life, they didn't defend her. They let her face the truth alone. I stood there at the threshold, half in shadow, half in light, watching the life she built on manipulation crumble like dust. And nobody, not one person in that entire ballroom, asked where I was. Or realized that I was already gone. I wish I could say I walked away without looking back. That I slipped into my car, drove off into the Montana dusk, and let the whole estate crumble behind me. But trauma doesn't leave you graceful. Not the kind built over years of silence. So I stayed, hidden in the shadows near the stone archway, watching the flames of truth spread room by room, face by face. Inside, the guests whispered like wind stirring dry leaves. "She lied to him. Did you see the messages? How could she do that on her wedding day? Poor guy. He looked gutted." Every word was a pebble tossed into the lake of my memory, sending ripples across every moment I'd been dismissed, minimized, erased. But it wasn't joy I felt. It was relief. A soft, tired kind of relief. The kind that fills the lungs after holding your breath for too long. The chandeliers flickered, as if the room itself was exhausted. Madeline, Montana's golden girl, my sister in name only, sat motionless on the ballroom floor, as if her gown had melted into the marble. Her hands trembled on her lap. Her breath came in sharp, broken bursts. I'd seen her cry before. Usually staged, usually for attention. But this was a collapse, a truth too heavy to hide beneath charm and mascara. My father, Daniel Carter, slowly approached her. Not with anger, not with softness. Just truth. "Madeline," he said quietly, "you owe your sister an apology." The words dropped like a stone in a silent room. Her head snapped up. "What? For what?" "For everything." Her laugh cracked like thin ice. "For everything?" "Dad, she's behind this. All of it. You can't honestly believe." He cut her off. Gently. But firmly. "No, Maddie. This time, we saw it with our own eyes." My mother stood beside him, shoulders tight, lip trembling. I waited for the defense, the excuses, the all-too-familiar dismissal. But instead, she whispered, "Your sister deserved better." The guests froze. Madeline froze. Even the rain clouds outside seemed to halt mid-roll. Those were words I had never heard in 28 years of life. Words I never thought I would. I waited for them to feel good. They didn't. They just felt late. Painfully, irreversibly late. Madeline shook her head, hair clinging to her cheeks. You all think she's some kind of victim? Her voice shattered. She ruins everything. She always. But she didn't finish, because even she realized there was no one left in that ballroom to agree. Not this time. Not anymore. Logan's mother, Victoria, turned toward her son. Come, she said softly. We don't need to stay here. Logan stared at his wife, a woman he thought he knew, and something inside him broke. Not loudly, silently. Like glass cracking beneath pressure. Without another word, he walked toward the exit. Madeline scrambled to her feet. Logan, wait, please. Baby, we can fix this. I can explain. None of it meant anything. He stopped walking. But he didn't turn around. His voice was barely audible. A tired ghost of the man who had arrived at the altar hours earlier. You used me. His shoulders sank. You used everyone. Then he walked away. And the sound of his footsteps echoed across the hall like the final note of a requiem. Madeline crumpled back into her chair, veil slipping to the floor like wilted petals. The room held its breath, and then, as if some unseen signal passed through the crowd, guests began to leave. Not hurried. Not frantic. Just done. Done with pretending. Done with the performance. Done with her. The orchestra packed their instruments. The cake remained untouched. The candles flickered like dying fireflies on crystal tables. One by one, the seats emptied, until only my parents and my sister were left. In a room built for celebration, now drowning in silence. I stepped away from the archway before they could see me. Not out of fear. Out of instinct. I didn't belong in that scene. I never had. I walked toward the gravel path leading to the parking lot, the same one I'd taken only minutes earlier. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of rain and pine. Thunder grumbled in the distance. Montana was preparing to wash the night clean. My heels crunched against the stones, each step syncing with my heartbeat. Slow, steady, certain. I reached my car, a beat-up blue Subaru that had carried me through every storm of my adult life. I gripped the handle, but before opening the door, I paused. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like I was running away. I felt like I was leaving something behind. A voice suddenly called out behind me. Evelyn! My whole body froze. My mother's voice, not frantic, not angry, just small. I turned slowly. Helen Carter stood a few feet away, her silk dress wrinkled, her face pale, makeup smudged from tears I didn't see fall. She looked at me like she had never really seen me before. Evelyn, she said again, stepping closer. We didn't know. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. That sentence again, the one she used whenever the consequences finally arrived. I shook my head. You did know, Mom. Her breath hitched. Tears welled again. No, she whispered, voice shaking. We didn't understand. Not really. We thought she just needed more support than you. I needed support too, I said. For once, my voice didn't waver. I just learned not to expect it. She placed a trembling hand over her mouth. Her eyes brimmed with something I rarely saw in them. Regret. But regret is a currency that buys nothing. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. Don't, I said quietly. Please. She froze. We stood there. 2 generations of mistakes, trying and failing to bridge the space between us. I want to make this right, she whispered. You can't, I replied. Not tonight. Not like this. Her shoulders sagged, crushed under the weight of a truth she had ignored for too long. Behind her, my father stood at the top of the path, silent. Watching. Ashamed. I gave them both one last look, not angry, not vindictive. Just done. Take care of her, I said softly. My mother choked. But what about you? I exhaled. A long, final exhale. I'll take care of myself. Like I always have. Then I opened my car door, slipped inside, and closed it gently. No slamming, no tears. Just closure. And when I pulled away, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Not once. Ethan stood in the dim hospital corridor, the fluorescent lights humming above him like a reminder that life never waits for anyone. It moves, it breaks, it rebuilds, all in the same breath. He inhaled deeply. Sometimes, the hardest walk you'll ever take is the one that leads you back to the person who once felt like home. And sometimes, the pain waiting behind that door is the punishment for the silence you kept for too long. Ethan's hands trembled, not because he feared the truth, but because he feared the memories that truth might bring back. Lisa's mother, Margaret, returned with a small, worn-out notebook. "Ethan," she said softly as she handed it to him. "She wrote this every night. And you'll want to read the last few pages." The notebook felt heavier than any weight Ethan had ever carried. The moment he opened it, a small photograph slipped onto the floor. He froze. It was a picture from 6 years ago. Lisa laughing, Ethan holding a paintbrush, paint smeared on both their faces, sunlight pouring over them like a blessing from a kinder time. Ethan's voice cracked as he whispered, "God, Lisa, what happened to us?" He flipped to the last written page. Lisa's handwriting, shaky, uneven, filled with the pain she never spoke about. "If tomorrow doesn't come for me, I hope Ethan knows I never stopped loving him. I never blamed him. I just wish he understood that my silence wasn't distance. It was exhaustion. I was drowning, and I didn't know how to ask him to breathe for me." Ethan closed the notebook with trembling hands. His breath hitched, and for the first time in years, he cried without holding back. Regret. It's a strange thing. It doesn't ask permission, it doesn't wait for the right moment. It hits you when you realize you could have saved someone, but didn't. A nurse suddenly appeared from the double doors. "Mr. Hayes? Lisa's asking for you." Ethan wiped his face, steadied his breathing, and followed her. He stepped inside the room. There she was. Lisa. Fragile, pale, a ghost of the vibrant woman he once knew. Her eyes fluttered open, and when she saw him, a faint smile appeared. "Ethan, you came." He walked closer, sat beside her, gently holding her hand as if touching porcelain. "I should have been here sooner," he whispered. Lisa shook her head weakly. "You were always here, even when you weren't." Ethan swallowed hard. "Lisa, why didn't you tell me you were hurting this much?" She looked at him with a softness that broke him. "Because I didn't want you to stay out of pity. I wanted you to stay because you still loved me." His chest tightened. "Lisa, I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to love you the right way." Her eyes shimmered with tears. "You always tried, Ethan. And that's what mattered." The heart monitor beeped steadily in the background, a constant reminder that time was slipping. Slowly, painfully, inevitably. Life doesn't give warnings. It doesn't rewind. It doesn't offer do-overs. It gives moments, and you either choose to love in those moments, or you choose to wait until there's nothing left to wait for. Ethan gently brushed a strand of hair from Lisa's face. "You're gonna be okay," he said, as if saying it out loud would make it true. Lisa smiled sadly. "Ethan, can you promise me something?" "Anything. Don't carry my pain after I'm gone. Carry my love instead." He blinked rapidly, fighting the breaking inside him. "Lisa, don't talk like." She pressed a finger to his lips. "Promise me." Ethan nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I promise." She smiled. The same soft, warm smile he fell in love with. "Good. Because loving you was the only thing I did right." Her eyes slowly closed, the heart monitor slowing. Ethan panicked. "Lisa, hey, stay with me, okay? Stay with me." Doctors rushed in. Nurses yelled instructions. Ethan was pulled back. The heart monitor flatlined. A long, continuous beep filled the room. Just like that, she was gone. People say time heals everything, but they lie. Time doesn't heal. Time only teaches you how to live with the scars you never asked for. Ethan walked out of the hospital hours later, lost, broken, empty. The world around him kept moving. Cars passing, people laughing, life happening. But he felt frozen. Because grief has a way of stopping the heart long before death ever does.